Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about the weapon balance in Black Ops Cold War. I tried to use and test every single weapon and attachment that I possibly could in the early access alpha to get you the best information that I can, and I do want you to prepare for some spicy opinions and for some criticism because not all of the things that I have to say are going to be good. The gameplay is mostly from the boat map and from that same alpha, and I do want to give myself a super quick shout out. If you're playing Modern Warfare or Warzone or maybe even this game in the future, be sure to use creator code DRIFTOR, DRIFT0, like the channel, number pad 0R, which does technically make the code portion of this video sponsored by Activision. So, in my opinion, the weapon balance in Black Ops Cold War is in a very good spot, with one exception, and that's the AK74u, which is an actual monster, and it is just on a pedestal, on a god tier above everything else. And some of the attachments don't make much sense, in my opinion. So we've got an overall really good system with one outlier and some kind of goofy attachments. The attachment system in this game has changed a lot from previous COD games. We're going to talk about it here near the end of the video, but some brief ones such as you can have up to 10 attachments on your weapon. You get 6 by default. You can have 10 if you run a particular perk, so there's just a metric ton of attachments you can run on there. The attachments no longer have stat bars. They have hard stat numbers, which I'm very happy for, and we're going to talk about later. And you can have shotgun secondary weapons. Yes, instead of just carrying a pistol or something, you can break out an 870 MCS or a spaz, and that really changes up the balance of the game. So let's start off by talking about assault rifles. There were 3 assault rifles we had access to: the Krig, the Zim4, and the AK47, which was probably the one I had the best results with overall, in the AK47. So the Krig assault rifle had a very predictable recoil. It was very easy to use and aim, but it did feel somewhat lacking in time to kill. It was kind of the slower killing laser beam style weapon. The Zim, or which is effectively just the Commando from Black Ops 1, was a bullet hose. It was a very good middle-of-the-road kind of assault rifle. It shot pretty quickly, but it had that good old Commando side-to-side recoil that I don't like a whole lot. I prefer to avoid those kind of weapons, but this one still did work well when I kitted to reduce that recoil. And then finally, the good old AK-47. High damage per shot, high recoil, long range, kicked a lot, but could definitely dump truck people if you hit your shots. And I kind of like this basic balancing triangle. It's a really good start for the alpha. You can see that, you know, the Krig has low recoil, the Zim has high rate of fire, the AK-47 has high damage per shot, and you're kind of picking one attribute to max and min for each weapon, and I think that's a good thing. That's kind of the ideas that you want to see in place for weapon balance, and I think that that means that not one of these weapons is individually the best, that different players are going to enjoy them for different reasons. And that is, again, a good thing, that you can pick something that's more your flavor of weapon. It can be just as competitive as any other. We only had 2 sniper rifles to play with, each of which functioned pretty similarly to the other, to the point where I honestly did not know the difference between them. I'm sure there's a difference. I'm sure there's a stats difference that we'll totally get to on in-depth, but for now, they seemed pretty much the same. And for me, it was more like a flavor choice than anything else, like choosing how I wanted my sniper rifle to look or feel for the most part. And that's fine, because I don't think snipers can be that different from each other, or you end up with goofy hit marker machines and spamming machines and like ultra slow explosive rounds. And some of the things that you see kind of Infinity Ward struggling with in Warzone right now is that you've really got the AX50 and the HDR, and then anything outside of that is just much more extreme and less practical. When it comes to attachments on sniper rifles, they seem to kind of try to force you into a hard choice between long range accuracy sniping, like say for BR, and some quickscoping. If you put on all of the fast aim down sights attachments, you can quickscope people very quickly and very easily, like MW2 style, or probably more like Modern Warfare 1 style, COD 4. You can quickscope a lot like COD 4. And interestingly, some of the fast aim down sights attachments will slow your sprint out time, which I found to be kind of unusual, because you'd want it to go faster, but at a certain point, when you make your aim down sight speed even faster, you start sprinting out slower. So it kind of forces less of the sprinting and jumping quickscoping and more of the kind of hold a corner, pre-fire, super snappy and pull back kind of quickscoping. So there's definitely going to be a little strategery there, and a lot of the fast attachments will, of course, nuke your idle sway and your recoil control and stuff like that. SMGs did have their own balance triangle. We're moving down to the heavy criticism part of this video. There was a MAC-10 looking weapon. I'm pretty sure it's a MAC-10. I don't know what the in-game name of it is. It shoots really fast but doesn't deal a lot of damage. It felt a lot like the MAC-10, or maybe something kind of like the Iparis from Black Ops 1, kind of one of those weapons. And it worked quite well. People killed me with it. I didn't have a problem with it. It didn't feel too slow killing, despite the fact that it doesn't deal very much damage. The MP5 probably had the best overall time to kill, but it had a lot of side-to-side wobble going on with it, which made it a little bit harder to use. And I think that the AK74u was supposed to be much like the AK47, the high damage per shot weapon, maybe a slightly different flavor of MP5, but ultimately it was just ridiculous. The AK74u was beyond busted. I'm recording this videos, most of these videos before I even do my launch day stream, but that's pretty much the weapon I'm planning to use the most, because it's just better than any assault rifle or DMR or LMG or almost anything in the game. So the problem with the AK74u is that the recoil is way too consistent for the damage that it deals. It's not even high recoil, I would say it's moderate, but it's extraordinarily consistent and easy to manage. The iron sights are very clear, very easy to use. You don't need any kind of optical attachments whatsoever. You can see small targets at long ranges very easily, and it doesn't kick so much that the iron sights even cover up your targets at long ranges. Range is this weapon's only real downside. It is not a particularly long-range weapon. However, there's an attachment you can put on it, a barrel that doubles your damage range. It doubles whatever your damage drop-off range is, which effectively gives it kind of like assault rifle ranges. And on a small map, that basically makes it a faster-paced assault rifle that you can use anytime you want. The AK74u had so many good things going for it. I mean, it basically, you had assault rifle damage and range, but SMG handling and good iron sights. It was truly the standout in weapon balance. In an alpha that had overall good weapon balance without a whole lot of like really broken or goofy stuff, this one was definitely the broken one, and I think that it definitely is going to need some tuning before it goes into full launch. I think that the LMGs are in a terrible state. The LMGs were nearly unusable to me. They all had more kick than assault rifles or SMGs. So hear me out on this one. Your light machine gun is going to kick more than your submachine gun. And I mean, seriously, they kicked a lot of side-to-side kick too, which I had a hard time with. And I had a really hard time hitting anything at all with the RPD or the stoner, even when I kitted them for recoil. They're very slow weapons. Of course they should be. They're LMGs, right? You can kit them for speed to be a little bit faster, but then they kick even more and get even less useful compared to the MP5 or the AK74u. And I thought, okay, maybe these are more like the ground war combined arms weapon. Maybe we're supposed to bust vehicles with these. So I put on the cavalry barrel and got the anti-vehicle equipment going and tried to like spray down the vehicles, and it just didn't do anything. It'd take me like 10 mags of 60 rounds each to kill a vehicle, which is just insane. And there isn't a single time that I was playing that I would have rather had a light machine gun over an assault rifle or an SMG. They were truly bottom tier and one of the worst parts of the weapon balance outside of the AK74u, and I think the LMGs are going to need some love before full launch, especially if we're going to be launching anything in Battle Royale, because they'll be completely useless in that. There was one DMR type weapon that I utterly loved. It was a type something, I can't remember if it was the type 63 or type 91. It was this kind of old school looking, like Soviet SKS style DMR kind of weapon, very high damage per shot, high precision, relatively low recoil, and it was kind of like the new FAL. It really reminded me a lot of the Black Ops 2 FAL, how it could be an excellent weapon in the right person's hands, but it wasn't particularly easy to use. I got my best gameplay with it, I had the most fun with it, I was able to send people to Shrek Swamp with it. It felt really good, and it also felt kind of fair because it's single fire. You do have to, there are situations that it doesn't work well in, you have to be good, you have to hit your shots. And all of the best classes with this weapon revolved around using iron sights and making do with those and taking advantage of other attachments. And that felt okay to me. Like if you are gonna have a gun that is single fire and is very precise and sort of very high risk, high reward, the reward needs to be there. And the reward was there for this weapon. I liked it, I enjoyed it. Probably gonna be using it a lot whenever beta hits if it doesn't take the nerf hammer. I don't know why anybody would use the M1911 pistol over the 3-round burst Raffica. There's probably a reason, like when we get to in-depth time and we're testing it, we'll probably be able to see like what kind of damage it deals and range and stuff, but for me and my money, I would just take that 3-round burst Raffica and spam people into the ground. I will admit that the Raffica is less spam, or B23R, whatever you want to call it, is less spammy than it has been in past COD games. It's not the Black Ops 2 one that's almost full auto, but I would prefer 3 shots over single fire almost any time, but maybe not over the shotguns. Shotguns are now secondary weapons that anyone can equip. And you heard me right, shotguns are secondary weapons. You get them for free. Any player, anytime can spawn with a rifle or sniper or LMG and have a shotgun in their back pocket. This is basically the same as the MW2 system all over again, except instead of super powerful shotguns, they're all a lot weaker. Like seriously, they really aren't great weapons. Right now in Alpha, we had a choice between what's effectively an 870 pump shotgun and a spaz. They had different names, but it's a spaz and an 870. The pump shotgun can one-tap up close, but it has to be pretty darn close. It's not like a regular shotgun in a regular COD game, or especially not Modern Warfare with the 725. You gotta be pretty close to one-tap people, but you can do it. And the spaz, I think, is always a two-tap. I don't know if it has a one-shot point-blank range. I always had to two-tap people, and it seems to be designed more to finish enemies off. Like if somebody's weak and they know you're reloading and they're about to push a corner on you, you pull out the spaz and kind of spam them down as they push. That seems to be the design goal for that weapon. I will say that all of the competitive players I played with really enjoyed this. They liked having the shotguns in the back pocket. They felt that it was good for the meta. I kind of did too, to be honest. I usually hate weak shotguns. Like, it's usually really frustrating for me when a Call of Duty game comes out and shotguns are just hit marker machines and awful and unusable, but they're usually primary weapons. I usually have to have a shotgun and a pistol, so if the shotgun doesn't kill people, I should just use the pistol to kill myself, I guess. But in this game, since you're going to have a rifle and a shotgun, your shotgun is kind of like your pistol. It's supposed to be weaker. It's not really supposed to, put people to bed quite as much. It's supposed to finish enemies off. It's supposed to harass. And in that role, they work really well. If they're not supposed to be primary weapons, they're great secondary weapons, and I'm all on board with this change. There's a couple of very useless attachments right now. I don't remember all of them offhand, but there was a couple of unique kind of suppressors and grips and stocks and just things that I would say don't really benefit me, that I would literally never use. That might be a matter of taste or opinion, but there's some of them that I kind of think are a waste of space or can only be used maybe on some very specialized weapons. Looking at you, cavalry barrels. I'm going to try those again during the launch day streams, but man, I had a really bad time with the cavalry barrels. They did not seem to kill vehicles the way that I wanted to, which is very frustrating. One huge change, however, that I don't know how many people are going to be talking about, is that instead of stat bars for weapons, we get stat numbers. You heard me right. For the first time, maybe like ever, we have stat numbers. So usually in a Call of Duty game, you'd equip an attachment and it would have like these bars that slide up and down and let you know what's going on. But now you'll equip an attachment and it'll say something like minus 10% vertical recoil control, minus 25% range, plus 20% ADS, plus not on the minimap, or some kind of effect. Or like you put on extended mags, right? And it's like minus 5% movement speed, plus 20 rounds ammo capacity, minus 1% ADS speed, and all these kind of little things. So you can see exactly the changes that are happening to your weapons for all of the attachments. I saw raw stats displayed for sprint out, idle sway, ADS, damage, range, and all sorts of little like intangible ones, which is really good. And Treyarch really seems to finally want to treat the community like adults, like big boys here, and let us know what our attachments really do instead of leaving us in the dark, kind of like IW did this year. So here's the hoping that these are real numbers. I really hope that when I sit down and test it, that it's really, like if it says plus 10% aim down sight speed, that it really is 10% faster and not... I can imagine my horror if they used representative numbers to represent how fast it feels like it's moving instead of what it really is. That would be really, really frustrating, so I don't want that. Alright, that's all for this video. At the end, we just have a summary. I think that there's a really solid foundation for well-balanced gunplay. Everything is looking like it's going really good, except the AK74u is too strong, the LMGs need a rework, and there's a couple of attachments that I'm probably never going to use. I'm really happy to see that there are real numbers now on the attachments for these guns, even if that might kind of sort of put me out of a job. I hope that it doesn't, but it might, and it looks like it's going to be good. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.